can you get Newt Gingrich, Tom Ridge, John Bolton, Rudy Giuliani on the Republican side, and Bill Richardson, Patrick Kennedy, and Carolyn Maloney together. You know why we're together? Because we're for democracy in Iran. Because we're for the MEK. We are together because we support change in Iran. But something very good happened last week. I want to openly thank the Iranian opposition for leading the charge to delist the MEK last week. That was a major step forward. And I want to say this, because we are bipartisan. We have an important task, and it's a humanitarian task. We have to protect the human rights of those in Camp Ashraf. We have to protect their ability to sell their property, to be treated correctly, to get basic necessities like water. We have to make sure that this building, the United Nations, does its responsibility to protect the people of Ashraf and Camp Liberty. Do you agree with me there? It's also important that the government of Iraq observe the human rights of the people of Camp Ashraf, that it's not just the United Nations. I want to conclude with a word to all of you. You scored a major victory. We scored a major victory last week with the delisting of the MEK. But we have to continue. We can't let up. We can't say we don't have any more to do. We have a lot more to do. And it's important to recognize that we shouldn't rest until there's democracy in Iran. God bless you, and let's do it. Thank you.
And once again, leaders of goodwill will be joining in a bipartisan show of unity to denounce the presence of Iran's President Ahmadinejad at the United Nations. We decry the presence of a hate monger in the International House of Peace. And I have joined with 283 members of Congress in sponsoring House Resolution 704, supporting Camp Ashraf. Nearly 3,400 Iranian dissidents, members of MEK, are residing in Camp Ashraf, and liberty in Iraq have suffered under Ahmadinejad as he has used Iraqi Prime Minister Maliki to attack them in Iraq. I urge the representatives at the UN to let Iran's leader know he is unwelcome at the UN because the UN is a building for peace. I urge the nations of the world to unite to counter the growing threat posed by this hate-mongering tyranny. So we are here in support of democracy and justice and human rights and the removal of Ahmadinejad. Thank you very much.
And I think the first place to start in considering what comes next for Iran is the importance of the removal of the MEK from the State Department's list of foreign terrorist organizations. And I think in terms of bringing a credible voice of opposition to the regime in Tehran, This is now an opportunity to disprove the critics here in America where it can have such an influence. And there has not been a time when it was more important to have more critical voices raised. The regime is very, very close to achieving its 20-year-long objective of deliverable nuclear weapons. There's simply no question about it. Publicly available data from the International Atomic Energy Agency make that clear. Our own conclusions about the weaponization progress that the regime has made are irrefutable, and the centrifuges at Natanz and at Fordo continue to spin at an ever-increasing rate, increasing the supply of enriched uranium. No mistake, if this regime gets nuclear weapons, the Saudis will get nuclear weapons, the Egyptians will get nuclear weapons, the Turks will get nuclear weapons, perhaps others as well. So that in a relatively short time as these things go, you could have half a dozen nuclear weapon states in the Middle East. But it is important now more than ever for American voices to be raised in support of a strong policy that stops the regime in Tehran from getting nuclear weapons. And in conjunction with that, there cannot be a more appropriate corollary policy than a policy that insists on regime change in Tehran. That is absolutely fundamental. I have long believed that it should be the declared policy of the government of the United States that we seek regime change in Tehran and we support any legitimate group that seeks that objective as well. We can say now that with the terrorist designation listing, there is no reason that the MEK can't move to the forefront of the opposition. It really rests with the MEK. It rests with thinking through what the strategy should be with the Iranian American diaspora and the Iranian diaspora throughout Europe. It's an incredibly rich and diverse group of people. I've had the privilege of meeting many over these past 4 years. The potential is enormous. The potential for the country of Iran is enormous. Let's get rid of this theocracy. Let's get rid of these military dictators. Let's let the people of Iran be free. Thank you very much.